Greetings all and sundry. This is your lucky day because this is the Brain Software Podcast coming to you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I'm Chris Thompson, and today Mike Mandel and I discuss the top 10 things you can do to radically and rapidly increase your wellness.
Hey, Scro, can you turn on the cathode ray tube? It's time for my favorite show, man.
Glad to, Dr. Ambrose. Wheel in the Atavachron and we'll get tuned in. The television's not working, Dave.
Switch to radio bag. Sounds better than nothing. But what about brain software, Fritz? And how about asking the question?
Oh, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know? These are days of victory! You're right, and with a hearty here we go, I would like to welcome to the official cleansing and detoxification area for all things hypnotic, the world's foremost hypnotic pirate, that hell-driving hypnotist in a Subaru, and our own 5,000-year-old wizard on demand, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Chris, it's great to be back. Here we are at Hypno East, although we say we're broadcasting from Toronto, so it's kind of both.
It's sort of Toronto. You know, in the grand scheme of the world being as big as it is, the fact that we are about 40 minutes outside of Toronto, I think that's an acceptable lower level exaggeration. Anyway, there we go.
Lower level exaggeration.
Yeah. It's funny because when we started this podcast years and years ago, of course, we were right in Toronto. And then I moved outside of Toronto with my family. And now we have a nicer spot here with more land.
You moved out here with the entire Sweatman
smaller
family.
house,
now, listen,
but yeah. All right, what are we going to talk about?
Let's comment here before we get into this. Last podcast, I made a point of saying that Chris had put his cup of coffee on his new iPad Pro.
And I just put it on my Mac.
I just saw him put it on his Mac.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
horrible.
Insanity. Okay.
All right. We have an amazing podcast coming up with lots of great stuff. This is going to be quite a different episode, one that we have never done. But before we get into it, topic is wellness. We're going to just remind you of a few things that are coming up. So first of all, I want to mention that it is, if we publish this according to our schedule, there are exactly 3 weeks between now and Michael C. Anthony coming to Toronto to teach an amazing class about stage hypnosis, performance and demonstrations and mentalism and everything from body language to whatever else he decides to throw in there. It's going to be a pretty cool class, October 19th and 20th in Toronto. Mike and I have also decided to teach a mindscaping class on the Friday before that. So that would be October 18th. If you have never taken our mindscaping live class in Toronto, this is the chance to do it. And following the October class, Mike, where are we off to?
We're off to the UK as per usual this time of the year. Well, we missed last year. But
sunny London.
Sunny London. Actually, Heathrow, which is part of London. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going back. I always love going back to England. And we're going to be teaching over there. So if you're in Europe and you can't come to Toronto to study with us, I'll be teaching a 2-day. Chris and I will be teaching a 2-day wizard school there, advanced hypnosis techniques.
Early November.
We'll be doing a 1-day mindscaping certification post-conference, and I'll be doing a 2-hour Metaphors Be With You at the conference. Come to the UK Hypnosis Conference convention. It is absolutely fantastic. It's the only one we go to other than Las Vegas.
Right. And then following November, when we fly to London, as soon as we get back, it seems almost like as soon as we get back, we are going to be teaching our 5-day architecture of hypnosis in Toronto. So all of those live events, it's a jam-packed fall session. Make sure you check out MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events.
Excellent, Fritz.
And that's where you can get all the details. All right, we're going to move on.
We are now moving to the, this is the Fritz and Jeff show.
Do you want to?
I'm going to say that.
We never
were in Las
explained
Vegas.
this.
We were in this freaking Starlight Lounge, way at the top.
Stardust Suite.
Whatever.
The Stardust Suite at the
Champagne
Orleans
Lounge.
Hotel.
Anyway, at the top of the Orleans Hotel and Casino. And we were invited by Scott and Richard Hypnothoughts live, and all the key trainers are there, James Tripp, Melissa, and Carl Smith. And it's just a blast. And I remember it was quite noisy, and a young woman asked you what your name was.
What happened is two people walked in, one of whom we'd met before, and the woman, Victoria, we'd never met before. So I said, I'm Chris. And she says...
Nice to meet you, Fritz.
Yeah, she thought it was the first time in my life that my name had been misheard like that.
First
Chris.
time.
But you can imagine how that can happen in a noisy environment. Chris
could be
can
Reginald.
become Fritz pretty easily. So she thought that my name was Fritz, which then caused Mike and I to think back to the time that we identified ourselves as the Chris and Jeff show. Not Chris and Mike, Chris and Jeff.
No, it's the earlier podcast.
It comes back to way back in the past when Mike started emailing me and misspelling my name on purpose in sequentially more and more ludicrous misspellings.
K-R-Y-S-S-E.
Yeah. It was Chris, then you left off the H, and I then think you went to C-H-R-Y-S, then K-R-Y-S-S-E, and I just responded, hey, Jeff.
Immediately going to Jeff with a J. That was so freaking funny.
So that's what caused us to go to the Chris and Jeff show. If you listen to some earlier podcasts.
But now it's the Fritz and Jeff show.
Now it's the Fritz and Jeff show. Right. Thank you, Victoria, for that hilarious joke. Victoria and I had such a good laugh about this when it happened. It was just brilliant. So we loved it. Good comedy.
Hey, listen, let's prep with the think tank words of the day.
We have to, because we got to get moving here.
And I ran these again, sitting up at our cabin on the shores of Bob Lake, Minden. I ran these through a random noun generator, and I always take
Talking
the
to the
very first
microphone.
ones. Yeah, I will. I'll do it in that. I always do the very first ones that came up. So it was anterior, marketplace, and thunderhead. All right, where are you going with that, buddy?
I'm going to let you take over because nothing's coming to mind for me right now.
Anterior is the front, right, as opposed to posterior,
That's
which
right.
is the other area. But I think anterior to me is being up front. It's being up front with everything, putting everything out there.
That makes sense.
And we say marketplace, so right away I'm thinking of marketing all the courses and things that we do, and our listeners come from a wide variety of different jobs and things. Being up front in the marketplace, putting everything out there, being transparent. But then we get Thunderhead. What does that say?
I have no idea. Thunderhead just makes me think of Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is
an
very
unfortunate
isolated
mistake.
and out in the middle of nowhere almost.
Well, it is. It used to be called Fort William, where the Sleeping Giant is. It's a big Native Canadian site in history.
What do you get out of that?
Well, Thunderhead is a massive black thundercloud. So I'm saying we need to be upfront about everything we're doing in the marketplace to avoid the thunderclouds coming in of the annoyance and the Lindas of the world and all of those things.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, what we do
And if you're
today?
not familiar with that, listen to podcast 133. Make sure you're familiar with the Linda story. What a wonderful story that was. Okay, so now we are going to move on to our top 10 list of tips that will give you a life of awesome wellness. We call it in our Wellness Academy being lean, strong, and happy. Because if people are lean and strong and happy, then they have happiness and they have health span.
And this is wonderful knowledge that hypnotists, therapists, counselors, coaches can use to help their clients.
Yes.
Because as Jason Lynette, our dear friend, says, we help people.
We help people, that's right. And so mostly we talk about hypnosis and personal development on this podcast.
NLP.
We have not yet, I don't think, done an episode that really focused on the elements of our Wellness Academy. For a few years now, Mike and I have been promoting a product called the Wellness Academy. It's at MikeMandelHypnosis.com/wellness. But as we will say right up front here, you do not need to give us any money.
No.
You can do all of this stuff on your own if you have sufficient motivation, which is part of the mental game, which we'll be talking about here. But if you want to join an awesome community of like-minded people who support each other, we would love to have you in our Wellness Academy. But it's completely your choice. It's up to you. We're going to come back to that point of autonomy anyway in a moment.
I was going to say, nice work affirming everyone's autonomy.
Yeah, so which comes from Michael Pantalon's Instant Influence.
Excellent
anyway,
book.
So the thing to keep in mind here is that while we are not published experts in the field of anything medically related when it comes to diet and exercise and all that stuff, we sure know what we're talking about. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of scientific hours of study under our belts learning about these topics.
Thousands and thousands and thousands might be a bit much.
I'm pretty sure it's many thousands.
Okay.
I know it is in my case.
A dozen at least.
So pay attention. All of the information that we're sharing here comes from
giants.
Yeah, we stand on just like in hypnosis, we are standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
And we're just sharing with you what we know.
And now, we're sharing what's worked for us. These are the things
and
we
our students.
do. And we're saying right up front, if you decide to adopt any of these, always check with your doctor, your primary healthcare provider first. We are not doctors. We're just guys who do this stuff and who've researched it and have had amazing results, as have other people we know.
And if you're a hypnotist, a coach, a therapist, if you are, let's say you're a hypnotherapist and you have clients coming to see you for things like weight loss, weight management, whatever you want to call it, use what you're learning here to help you craft the suggestions that you lead your clients to in the sessions. That's all I'll say about that.
That's good.
All right.
So we have a top 10 list of just useful ways of transforming your life, transforming your wellness, your well-being. And number one is making that initial decision. You must decide that you're going to do this, and you're going to do it now. You've got to be at threshold, right?
Absolutely. So that's why we put this as number one. You must decide.
Nobody can decide it for you.
You're the one who has autonomy, coming back to that principle.
So it's got to come from you. It's got to be self-generated. It can't be so that your spouse gets off your case or something like that.
Yeah.
The benefit in it has to be self-generated and self-directed. When you reach the point, something must change. It must be now, and it must be me. Everything will change in your life because you're already aligned in the proper direction with that. So establish, first of all, are you going to change? What are you going to change, and how are you going to do it?
And remember, if you hear words from, let's say you're, again, hypnotherapist, coach, whatever, and you hear people saying things like, I really should go to the gym more. I really should get more sleep. I really should lose weight. Whatever it is, I should. That is not a decision. That is simply an awareness of what would make your life better, but it's not a decision to actually do it. It's no different than, I should clean my house. I should change my job. I should eat healthier food. None of these things are decisions.
No, absolutely not.
Okay?
It's when it becomes I will.
It's moving from level one. If I was to define levels, level one would be knowing that you could make this change and should make this change.
Recognizing there's a problem.
Recognizing.
Right.
Yeah. And then getting to threshold. And just to keep it simple, if level two is you've actually made the decision and put it into action, right? So you've got to decide. That's step one. Without that, you are nowhere. Don't take on clients. Don't try to help people who don't want to be helped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No third-party interventions. It's really, really important that you find in your mind what are the benefits of making this change, because that can be tremendously motivating for you. What will the benefits be when you're in the best shape, the best health of your life?
Right. All right. So let's go with the idea that from here on in, none of this stuff is going to be important. None of this stuff is going to even matter if you haven't gotten past step one. So without step one, you may as well just skip the rest of this. Here we go. So step two, or let's say number two on the list.
All right.
So what we put here, and this is a real point of leverage for people. So declare your commitment to others in your life.
Well, maybe, Chris, before you go on there, you should explain what you mean by leverage or leverage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you've made the decision that you are going to live a better life, you're going to get healthier, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get stronger, you're going to eat better, you're going to sleep better, whatever it is, whatever pieces of the puzzle fit for you, one of the ways that you can get leverage, or what leverage is essentially something that will motivate you, something that will automatically give you a sense of continuing motivation.
Yeah, something that's going to pull you forward instead of feeling like you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, and in the case of, I remember years and years ago when I started listening to Tony Robbins, he talked about the twin forces of pain and pleasure, and I think those are great ways to think about it. So if you do something, you get pain if you don't do it, let's say. What pain are you avoiding? And what pleasure are you getting by doing it? So those twin forces. Now, if you declare to others in your life, people that you love, then you're essentially setting up a situation where you will have pain if you don't do it. Therefore, you're more motivated to do it. But you will also get the pleasure of knowing that you did it. And people who you care about and look up to, or just care about, whatever it is, they will look at you and go, wow, yeah, look at what Mike did.
And this is very foundational in human behavior, to get the affirmation from people we love and respect. You know, our friend Mohammed in our online group, He's great because when he wanted to lose a bunch of weight and get in shape, he put it out there and said to people, this is what I'm doing, and I'm holding myself accountable to all of you, knowing he would take the ridicule if he didn't do it. But then he did it. He got it together.
And Cialdini writes about this in his book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, right? The idea of commitment and consistency. If you make a commitment to people, now the biggest types of commitments are in person, in public, the whole world knows, right? It's hard to get away from those. You essentially force yourself to act in a way that is consistent with your commitments. But if you aren't going to go public and make some speech to the world, you put it out on Facebook, you tell all your friends, whatever it is. Maybe you write a letter to the top 5 people that are most important in your life, and you ask them to keep you accountable. You're more likely to succeed if you do something like that.
That's really interesting. And some people, Chris, they even they elevate the pain of staying the same on purpose. I saw one person online had posted a very unflattering picture of herself because she wanted people to know how out of shape she had gotten.
Yes.
And saying, this is what I look like now, and this, I'm disgusted with how I look, and this is what I'm planning on changing. I mean, that's a very powerful thing to do.
That is a powerful strategy. I think I know who you're talking about. We'll, of course, keep that private. But yes, that is a really good strategy. When people take photos of themselves in, I remember one woman posted a picture of herself in a bikini and said, I'm not happy with how this looks. I'm changing. And like, that's serious. Okay. It takes guts. That takes guts. Yeah, I was going to say something else, but you get the idea.
I have no idea what you're about to say.
All right, so declare your commitment to others in your life, others who are important to you, not people who are inconsequential in your life, people who matter to you. Tell them what you're after, ask them to hold you accountable.
Add the consequences?
So add consequences. An idea here, and I can't remember where I got this from, but let's say in the United States, those who are political, there's big differences between the beliefs of the Democrats and the Republicans, whatever it is.
Right.
Well, let's say that you're a Democrat. And you could define a consequence to yourself that you're going to donate X number of dollars
to the Republicans
Party, or
vice versa.
If you don't hit your goal, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. It could be a charity. You could pick a charity that you absolutely don't believe in. Let's say you're a meat eater and you could donate money to PETA. PETA, right? Which is the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, I think. Anyway, so let's say, and I'm not making a judgment here, I'm just giving you an example. If you were really against what they stand for, and you decide that the consequences, if you fail, you have to donate money to them, you're much more likely to succeed.
I like the Tony Robbins one, and this is so repugnant to me, owning 2 cats, the idea of eating cat food.
Oh,
if you fail. And here's how you make it a consequence. You say, I'm planning to be in shape by this date, be down by 25 pounds. 20 pounds, Tim Ferriss says, is the first sort of level where people look at you and say, what have you been doing? They'll notice it. So you'll lose 25, 30 pounds, whatever, by a certain date. You post online, you hold up a can of Tender Vittles cat food or whatever.
And
whatever
you say,
it is.
I
will eat this live on Facebook. You'll see me open. I mean, there's a heavy consequence.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, consequences.
So give yourself consequences. Okay, so that was step 2.
Number 3.
All right, now we're going to get into some of the meat of science-based stuff here.
Okay, I'm going to make sure you don't Ken Sweatman this.
We're not going to Ken Sweatman this at all. This is so obvious and important.
Yeah.
I wanna just let's give the title. So number 3, dramatically reduce your consumption of sugar, grains, and vegetable oil.
And when you say vegetable oil, you're not talking olive oil.
Yeah, let's go through each of those briefly.
Okay.
So, and first of all, dramatically reduce. I am not saying eliminate. Mike is not saying eliminate because that's a pressure cooker.
Never say never
again, right? We are saying, hey, we're not going to tell you never eat a dessert again either. We're not going to tell you never eat at McDonald's. No. Probably not a good idea to do it very often, but we don't like to say never because it's a pressure cooker. So dramatically reduce. Simply don't make these big parts of your life, because the truth is, for most people around the world, sugar, grain, and vegetable oil is the vast majority of calories.
Oh.
And we'll get into calorie counting and why that doesn't make sense in a moment.
It's pointless.
But let's just say this. Sugar, we're talking about the sugar that is in fruit, the sugar that is added in food.
High fructose corn syrup.
And high fructose corn syrup, so the sugar that's in soda. We want to reduce our consumption of sugar.
To almost none, I would say. If you want to get quick results.
Then the next thing is grains. We want to reduce our consumption of grains. Now, when we say grain, we mean primarily wheat, which is the biggest grain in the world and
I've
cheap.
been told to eat a lot of healthy whole grains.
Let's finish getting through the list first, and then
you said grains.
So grains, yeah, we're going to reduce. You have to learn to read ingredients and find that wheat is in almost everything. It's a very cheap grain, and corn. Corn is not a vegetable. Corn is a grain. Right? We talk about this all the time. So wheat and corn, those are the two grains that are in almost every processed food. We're not going to get super picky about grains when it comes to things like unprocessed foods, like actual real foods. We're going to get to that in a moment. But we're really referring to the ultra-refined grains that are mixed with sugars and mixed with vegetable oils to make these ultra tasty foods that people just want to keep eating. Donuts and bear claws and things like that. So think of something like potato chips.
Yeah.
What are you eating here? It's potato flour. It's not a grain technically, but it's the same idea.
It's carbs.
It's carbohydrates, ultra-processed food mixed with oils. So now let's get to the third point there in that list, which is vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are not from vegetables. They're called vegetable oils to make them sound like they're healthy. Canola oil, soybean oil, what else, Mike? Corn oil.
Corn oil, yeah.
Again, not vegetables. They come from seeds. They are solvent extracted, and they are essentially non-existent in nature. They would never exist if it wasn't for chemical factories. They are only there because they are super cheap to manufacture, and it's profitable for food companies to put them in foods. So, what else do you? I can Ken Sweatman this to death. So, you want to go on to it?
I think it's important that whatever oils you're having are healthy ones. You know, like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, things that are cold pressed, and ghee, which I love for cooking, which is clarified butter, and that pretty well nails it.
So we have a few subpoints under this point, which is reminder: dramatically reduce sugars, grains, and vegetable oil.
Again, we're not saying never. We're not saying never have them, but we're saying if you dramatically reduce them.
Do not make them the staple of your diet. Make them the anti-staple. Make them the rare event in your diet. So what do? You throw away all the crap. How do you avoid this stuff? By throwing it away.
Now, that's a good point, Chris, because I was saying to someone last night up at the cabin, we went over and we were talking to family members, and I said, if you don't have it in your cupboard, you're not going to rush out at 7 p.m. to buy 6 butter tarts. You know, you won't eat it.
Yeah. So those frozen pizzas that, we all have in our freezers. Well, I don't, but the frozen pizzas, okay, well, what is that? That's flour. It's bad for you. It's a bunch of cheap ingredients. Throw it away. The bread, throw it away. The muffins, the granola bars, all that crap. Just throw it away and stop buying it. So that's step one.
And that means most people are going to have to get rid of a hell of a lot of stuff in the cupboard.
Yeah, and that's sort of the point, too, which is that, yes, it does mean that almost all of the crap in your modern cupboard is going in the trash bin. Point 3, subpoint 3 here that I wrote down, I want to make sure is clear, is that the most dangerous combination, and I want to credit Dr. Ted Nyman, who I believe is in Seattle. This is the guy that taught me this. The most dangerous combination is foods that are consisting of processed carbohydrates and fat together.
Yeah.
Now, almost every really tasty food that you want to keep eating is a combination of those things.
So we're saying things like
potato
sugary
chips,
donuts, big
ice
slabs
creams,
of pie,
donuts, pie, croissants, even something as simple as toast and butter. Those healthy whole grains you were referring to, Mike. So you go to the market and you buy your whole grain, 12 grain, organic.
Thinking you're doing something really good
toast,
for yourself.
Bread, and you toast it and you put butter on it. You think that's wonderful.
And now you got carbs and fat together
You've
again.
mixed processed carbohydrates with fat.
And what happens when you do that?
You're not full. It makes you want to keep eating.
Plus, I think the carbs trigger the insulin release
to
store fat.
They
and
sure
you've provided fat in your diet to make it easier.
I don't think we're going to get into all the biochemistry on this, but
But
absolutely what ends up happening is that you end up unconsciously wanting to eat a lot more food than your body needs. Okay? So we've got things like donuts, toast and butter, croissants, desserts, ice creams, all that. But also yogurt that has sugar added. If you're eating yogurt thinking, well, yogurt's great for me, check the sugar. There's guaranteed to be added sugar unless you're eating plain yogurt.
Right.
And that's just going to drive all kinds of bad things in your body. So,
all right.
Final comment on this is that calorie consumption, we all know that from a thermodynamic standpoint, if you eat more energy than you burn, you will gain weight. Absolutely true, but unfortunately, that truth does not explain the why, the how, etc. All it tells
misses
you,
a lot of information.
All it describes is what's happening. It doesn't describe the why or give you any information as to how to change it. And the traditional viewpoint is you have to count your calories.
Eat in moderation.
Make sure you eat less than it doesn't matter what you eat, provided you count it, and then you make sure you exercise it and run off those calories, whatever it is you're doing. The reality that we've learned from the best doctors in this field is that calorie consumption is driven by hunger and satiety as moderated by food choices, which is why we suggest above, get rid of all that crap. Now, why don't we count calories, Mike?
Because nobody knew anything about this 100 years ago.
100
people
years
tended
ago.
to be the right weight.
Exactly.
We don't count breaths to breathe. We don't count, I should drink 14 ounces of water now. But you drink water when you're thirsty. You breathe when you need to breathe, when you're low of oxygen.
Unconscious process. If you're a hypnotist, you understand the unconscious mind.
So then when you're hungry, you eat the right foods. And when you're comfortably full, not stuffed to the gills, you stop.
You eat real food when you're hungry, and you stop eating when you're not hungry anymore. So just like Mike said, we don't count how many milliliters of water do we consume in a day or worry that we'll have chronic dehydration.
Right.
If I don't count how much water, I'm going to be dehydrated, right? Mm-hmm. No, we just drink water when we're thirsty. And similarly, we don't count how many times we urinate in a day, right?
Yeah.
Or measure it, pee in a measuring cup first, Mike.
Extra 30 ounces,
We make sure, we don't make sure you're not bloated, Mike. We got to count.
Quit making it me. Stop personalizing. Okay, let's get to number 4.
All right.
Because we got to keep moving here.
So,
number 4 I love. It's eat real food. And it's basically what Chris and we talked about the 100-year-ago test. If your grandparents would have recognized this as food and would have eaten it, that's probably a pretty good thing to eat.
Yeah, that frozen pizza, that's not real food. That donut, that's not real food.
Why is it that all the stuff that, my wife said this last night, why is it that all the stuff that makes us get bloated and inflamed and full is the stuff that's so delicious?
Yeah, well, that's profitable for so-called food companies. I call them obesity companies, but no. It is profitable for them. It is not healthful for you. There's a huge difference between something healthy for you and something that makes money for food companies.
And again, these are only our opinions based on the best expert.
And as you can see, the reason number 4 is eat real food, the reason that that's in this spot is because you had to understand first what to throw away. Throw away makes space in your life for the good stuff, right? So throw away the crap. Then number 4 is eating real food. Real food is just stuff that it doesn't need a list of ingredients.
Sure.
There's
not things in the list you cannot pronounce.
Now, Mike and I eat a lot of meat, but we understand some people are going to be vegetarian or even vegan, and that's your choice. We're not going to push you one way or the other. But what do we mean by real food? We mean steak, eggs,
cheese,
fish, cheese, nuts, seeds, lettuce, celery, radishes, all the vegetables,
peppers,
even fruit. Even though we said that sugar is something we want to avoid, if you eat in moderation actual fruit, that does not count. Like when I was a young man, I believed that eating toast and peanut butter with a glass of orange juice
was a really healthy breakfast.
I thought that was healthy, or oatmeal.
Oh man, I used to eat
oatmeal
Lucky
with
Charms,
some brown sugar. And a side of orange juice. I loved my orange juice.
But you're getting like 5 oranges in a glass.
Exactly.
And you're getting a huge rush of sugar in your
system. If you realized how much sugar that you were drinking by having a glass of orange juice, you'd hopefully quickly decide, you know what, I'm going to have an orange. And that's a much better choice. That is a real food. What is the ingredient in an orange? Orange. What's the ingredient in a salad? Lettuce, celery, whatever else it is, right? So real foods are just exactly that. It's not a complicated concept.
Right.
And if all you do is throw away the crap and replace it with real food,
Chris,
you'll get 90% of the benefit.
90% of the benefit. And I think we should just say here very quickly, if you can eat foods that are as fresh as possible too. I grew up with a mom who was a pretty dismal cook from England. So vegetables everything was cooked for safety, not flavor.
Not flavor,
we had a lot of canned beans and stuff, green beans and canned peas that were just cooked to death. So you want to eat things in their natural form that are fresh as well. What about moving, number 5?
All right. So now we've sort of moved past the dietary component. We're going to get onto the exercise component where we have number 5, 6, and 7. And we're modeling 5, 6, and 7 after Mark Sisson from the Primal Blueprint, who is one of our favorite prolific authors and speakers and coaches and all
Mark's
this stuff.
Amazing.
So the number 5 is to move. And when we say move, we mean move a lot. Walk, Make a point of parking further away in the parking lot.
That's a great one, yeah.
Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Stand up more. If you're going to be listening to a podcast, go for a walk while listening to it.
Yep.
Do anything that involves not sitting on your ass.
Yeah, and Mark Sisson talks too about elevate your heart rate every day. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean push it way up in the top end of the target
That's what moving does. Moving is not,
move.
We're getting to sprinting later, but moving just means moving around, which means you're not at a resting heart rate.
Right.
Avoid being at a resting heart rate except when you're actually resting, right? Sleeping and taking breaks during the day, but move a lot. And if you get in the habit of moving a lot, you will have a better life. You will feel better.
Now, and it becomes natural. Take those long walks, those hikes. That's why I love being up in the Great White North. My wife and I can go and walk through the woods, although the bears are out now, so you got to be careful. What about lifting? When I hear lift, right away I think of guys doing deadlifts and bench presses and stuff.
And that's a wonderful thing to do if you like doing that. But
I don't.
So lifting is... Now, let me back up for a moment and say that number 5, which is move a lot, that should take a fair amount of time because... You can do it while you're doing other things, right? If you're having a phone call, let's say, with a client, you can do that while standing or walking around your office or whatever it is. If you're listening to a podcast, you can do that while going for a walk. You can do all kinds of things. You can multitask.
Yeah. Even yesterday, you and I had a meeting through FaceTime.
Right.
And I'd started by sitting in my chair outside where I was working with my iPad Pro.
And you walked around.
I put that down, walked up and down the beach while I was talking to you because moving.
And the reason I mentioned that moving will take a fair amount of time is we're designed to move. We should move a lot. The lifting component is the part that's going to build muscular strength and muscle mass. And muscle mass is really important to health span and longevity.
And people who lose muscle mass as they get older run into a host of troubles.
Yep, you're much more like think about it, Mike. How many people, you're 66 now. Right. How many people do you know that are 66 that do not have any muscle mass? If they fall over, they're probably at high risk of breaking a bone or...
Oh, yeah. It'd be so easy for me to beat in the octagon. Yeah,
it's horrible. So what do we mean by lift? We mean to do some sort of exercise that is high energy use, that's not even the right word I'm using here, Mike.
You're talking about like something that's going to cause the muscles to activate.
Yes, it is taking your musculature and using it essentially to failure for a very brief period of time.
This can be as simple as the push-ups that we do.
Yep.
Push-ups and squats, these different things.
We're not talking about necessarily having to go and get a gym membership and lift barbells and do
Some
bench
people find
presses.
that's the most motivating for them, and that's good.
You should be best rewarded by picking an exercise that you will enjoy doing. If you like lifting weights, lift weights.
Some people need variety. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. My wife needs variety. She's always changing it up with her workout. And I'm one of the other... I read years ago, Arnold liked to change it up all the time, do different things. The muscle confusion thing with his weights. Lou Ferrigno, I think he was one of those guys who could just do the same thing over and over and over. And
the Incredible
that's me.
Hulk, for those of you
wondering. I
wondering.
do my same workout every frickin' time, 4 or 5 times a week. So I don't need the variety.
Yeah.
If you need it, get it.
But so here's what I'm going to do. We'll put this in the show notes. I want to recommend that when it comes to lifting, there is a great book called Body by Science.
Oh, yeah. Terrific book.
And really, the fundamentals come down to this. All you need to do is pick 3 to 5 movements that you do a few minutes a week. Maybe and I'm serious, if you haven't trained before, let's say your movements are going to be push-ups, body weight squats, and what do we want to use for a third one? Pull-ups. If you can get a pull-up bar in your house or something like that, would be wonderful.
Or even a plank or something like Mark Sisson does. Doing planking,
And you pick those 3 exercises. You can add some more if you want. And you do them to failure 1 time each, 3, 4, 5 times a week max. And it'll take you 5 or 6 minutes to do your entire workout.
And it'll start the process.
Yeah, it'll make you much stronger, much faster, and it'll be amazing. But anyway, we'll put it in the show notes because we don't have time to go through a lot on the exercise component. Join our Wellness Academy or study on your own. There's tons of people on YouTube who teach about this. But the point about number 6, lift, is that it only takes, I would say, at most 60 minutes per week.
I know. It's amazing.
Per week.
Amazing.
So
and the
it's
results you get,
easy thing.
The minimal effective dose.
Yeah, and I mean 60 minutes a week is probably overstating it. The truth of the matter is if you did it and it took you 5 minutes 3 times a week, that's 15 minutes. Who can't find 15 minutes
for sure
to build up more muscular strength?
Yeah, and look and feel better.
Right.
Well, let's do number 7. Then we got a commercial break coming up.
All right, number 7 is an easy one.
It's sprint.
So we had number 5, move, number 6, lift, number 7, sprint. And the way Mark Sisson puts it is once a week or once every 10 days, sort of every 7 to 10 days, you spend 10 minutes doing a sprint workout. Now, a sprint workout can actually be sprinting, like running down the street.
Or it could be power walking uphill, like a steep hill.
It could be doing burpees. It could be getting on a bike and actually doing sprinting. It could be doing a treadmill sprint. It could be a high-intensity interval training.
I'll tell you how I do it. You know, I do 200 Hindu squats. Mm-hmm. And I've never pushed it beyond that. I find I get a great level of cardio fitness from that, cardiopulmonary fitness. But those, I do 200 in one set.
And you do the last few.
And when I gradually speed up. I'm going moderately fast, and I do the last maybe 20 as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, which is essentially the same as a
sprint. Yeah.
When we say sprint, just think, take your heart rate to the max that you can comfortably get to.
Checking with your doctor.
Yeah, and you keep it there for like 30 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, you'll know, because it'll limit itself.
Exactly.
Sucking air.
It's one of these things that it's like you don't have to count calories. You don't have to count how long you sprinted for. Just do it as long as you reasonably can, and when you feel like, I'm dying
then you
here,
go, I think I better stop now.
Yeah, just stop.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that, I think the way Mark Sisson teaches it is you do about 3 sets of these sprints. So let's say you do your first one. It lasts 30 seconds max, and then you rest for a couple of minutes. Casual walk, whatever. You do it again for another 30 seconds. You rest for 2-3 minutes. Yeah. You do it again. You're done. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
So that's your move, lift, sprint, number 5, 6, and 7. And okay, we're going to come back with 8, 9, and 10 after our commercial break. Spunky and Beezer. It's the Spunky and Beezer Show. Spunky and Beezer. It's the Spunky and Beezer Show. That's right, boys and burls. The Brain Software Podcast is sponsored by the Shizjig Corporation, a corporation that is proud to present the Spunky and Beezer Radio Show, the only show in the world where you're spunky
and your Beezer.
And like all fine family shows from the Shizjig Corporation, the Spunky and Beezer Show is 100% and proof.
Hey, Dad, can I watch the Spunky and Beezer Show? Can I, Dad?
No, son. Although this is technically a family show, the adult themes are far too derisive for a boy like you, who possesses very little sexual charisma.
But are you going to watch it, Dad?
Oh, look at this purple jockstrap, son. Oh, yeah. Of course I am.
Spunky and Beezer. It's the Spunky and Beezer Show. Spunky and Beezer. It's the Spunky and Beezer Show.
And now back to the Brain Software Podcast. All right.
This brings us to number 8, a big favorite of mine, buddy.
Yeah, okay, identify it.
Sleep and rest.
There we go. So we always think about it this way. Sleep is a nutrient. So if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're just going to feel like crap. We all know that. We don't need to explain it.
Yeah, but
right?
People nowadays, Chris, more and more, I hear people bragging about how little sleep they get. It's a badge of honor.
I only sleep 3 hours a night.
A friend of mine, Chris, a good friend of mine who, thank God, does not listen to this podcast, because I wouldn't want to upset him with hearing me say this, but he'll know it's him. He brags that he sees sleep as a complete waste of time, and he gets 4 to 5 hours a night consistently. Yeah. Now, if you see the guy, he is aging prematurely, like absolutely is. And I look at him and go, man, you got to get some freaking rest.
Rest is important. You know, everyone is going to know for themselves. I'm not going to even throw out guidelines here. For me, if I get 7 or 8 hours, I feel pretty darn good. If I get 6 hours, not quite good. If I only get 5, if I have a bad night's sleep, you and I, Mike, whenever we get together, if one of us has had a bad night's sleep, it's pretty obvious, right? And make sure you're getting the adequate, whatever that means to you. And remember, if you're a hypnotist and you're giving people suggestions, you can't prescribe them 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
But you can tell them that it's important, and they'll find it easy to get the appropriate amount of sleep.
And their sleep patterns will be normal.
You know? And all of this stuff. Now, in order to get a good night's sleep, we'll cover some very quick concepts here. Make sure that you haven't had a lot of fluids before you get to bed.
Make sure you've had no stimulants before bed, including red wine.
Caffeine, red wine, alcohol in general. You don't really want to go to sleep with alcohol in your system. It's going to make you wake up. It's going to make you have to go pee, which is going to make it harder to go back to sleep. Yeah, I know, I did. Right. It is going to screw up your heart rate, and you're not going to get a good quality sleep. So avoid
eating before bed too. Yeah. You know, you should be sleeping, not digesting. I now typically do not eat anything after 7 p.m. No snacking, nothing. Eat an adequate supper. You won't be snacking.
It's a great idea to reduce the number of hours that you eat in the day so that you can accomplish what Mike just described.
Now make sure your room is dark. Make sure your room is cool.
Dark and cool helps a lot. Open a window.
Yes, fresh air.
Yeah, and you know what else really helps me? I love having a fan on, even if it's freaking cold outside.
Blowing across the bed?
Yeah,
I
because
love that
way I pull the covers over tight, and I'm warm under there, but the air is cold. I sleep like a baby.
Well, buddy, right now up at Whispering Oaks, our cabin, it's dropping to like 43, 44 Fahrenheit at night, which is pretty damn cold, and we've no insulation. We do have a fire in that. And in the night, I stuff the cats in the bed with us. It's fantastic to have the cheetah and the Egyptian Mao there.
Yeah.
Get comfortable. But let me just add, guys, if you can possibly nap, it's really good for your brain. It stops brain shrinkage. And typically in Chinese medicine, if you go to bed at, say, 10 o'clock and you awaken at 6 a.m., there's an 8-hour stretch. Look at the very middle of the cycle. So that would be 2 a.m. Now move ahead 12 hours. And in Chinese medicine, 2 p.m. will be the time your energy drops. And with me, that's absolutely the case. Between 2 and 3 p.m., my energy drops. I stretch out on the couch. I cover my eyes. My wife leaves me alone. And for 20 to 30 minutes, I'm just out.
And that's all you need.
Totally recharges me instead of drinking more frickin' coffee.
I would say that for me, the minimum is about 15 minutes. A power nap is fantastic.
No more than half an hour, though.
Yeah, no more than 30, because you don't want to fall into a deep sleep cycle.
No, I remember I said
you'll be groggy when you wake up.
I inherited this ability from my dad. And I said he used to be on sentry duty in Britain during the war and put his Lee Enfield rifle in the corner of the sentry box where they had to do that. I would just lean against it and fall asleep standing up. That's amazing.
Yeah, if you can develop the skill, and it is a skill, you can practice it and get good at it to power nap.
All right, so what about number 9?
All right, so getting sleep. That's a nutrient. All right, number 9 is do the prep, i.e. do the preparation, because having all of this as a plan, remember number 1 was you must decide. Well, once you've decided and you kind of know what you should be doing based on this podcast, based on anything else you do, some of the resources that we provide you with in terms of the show notes, like books like Body by Science.
Right.
Once you've done that, once you know, you've decided and you know, well, how are you going to actually put it into action? You've got to do the planning. So you've got to decide, okay, when am I going to go to the grocery store and stock up on actual food after I throw away the crap?
Where am I going to do my workout every few days or whatever?
What's my schedule going to be like? So for example, when I decided about 3 years ago, Mike, that I was going to make my fitness and personal development the number 1 priority over work, even above work, right? Yeah. I was working starting at 9 a.m. And then I would not go to the gym because maybe by 2 p.m. I'd realize, oh crap, I didn't get enough done on my to-do list. I feel bad that I didn't finish all the things that I wanted to do. I guess I won't work out today. Well, when I switched things around and said, no, I'm going to drop off my kids at school or whatever I've got to do that morning. And at 9 a.m., I'm going to the gym. That's when I want to work out. I'm going to listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks as I work out. I'm going to come home and maybe do some training that I feel like training, whether it be learning a new language or taking a great courses or a marketing course, whatever it is. I did all those things in my 9 to noon window.
So you had planned ahead.
Yeah, I planned ahead, and that's the idea. Prepare.
Hey, that
really comes out. My dog has decided that he wants to bark all of a sudden. Well, I think we know what that means.
I think we do.
Well, all right, let's continue.
Finally, number 10 is rediscover the fun of it. Listen, guys, one of my mottos is if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. Of course, it's a bit facile to say that. But the reality is the more you can make things fun and enjoyable instead of a grind, oh, no, I got to do this. Make this something you want to do, that you get to do, instead of something you have to do.
Exactly.
And notice how much better you feel.
Yeah, and I think we should have a little bit of, not a lot, but let's just have a bit of conversation about this. So when it comes to rediscover the fun, Mike makes a really important point. If you hate it, you're not going to do it. You just won't.
No, you won't.
So if you've decided that you need to get in shape and you need to exercise and you're planning on following our idea of moving is easy, lifting, oh, well, I don't want to lift weights. I can't bear the idea of bench pressing.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. Go find something else that you will enjoy. You know, in the case of, there's a chain around here called Orange Theory Fitness.
Yeah.
Now, my wife's been trying it out lately and loves it. This is something she loves, where other people might just feel like, you know what, I hate the idea of a fitness class.
Is this where you drink a glass of orange juice like every 10 minutes?
No, it's like an hour long. It just sounds brutally hard.
Yeah, losing interest based on that.
It's not fun. High intensity interval training for like an hour with all kinds of different lifting and moving.
Lisa's
and
into that, yeah.
Yeah, our friend Lisa's into it. Anyway, so my wife's doing that now. Loves it. Wonderful. She loves it. That doesn't mean you will. That doesn't mean I would, right? So pick something that you would. Somebody else might say, you know what, for me, I'm going to do our friend Daniel, he just started taking some ballroom dancing classes.
Yeah.
You know what? That's wonderful because he's probably getting a good social experience. He's moving. Find something that you like. Curling.
Remember, the best program is the one you will stick with.
Exactly.
The one you'll do.
And within that same vein, when it comes to food, if you're deciding, I'm going to eat real food and you've really got no idea how to prepare it, well, you probably will hate it. So you won't stick to it, and then you'll end up at McDonald's or some other garbage fast food place.
Well, but there's good. Let's be fair to McDonald's.
You can.
We do eat there. It just we don't eat the typical with the buns and stuff. We'll eat just the meat.
Oh yeah,
bacon and cheese, which is quite good. You know, it's good quality beef and stuff.
I'll order
I'm not
taking
a shot at McDonald's. That was him.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. When I'm just talking, let's say generic junk food. If you don't like the food that you've decided to eat instead of the bad stuff, you'll go back to the bad stuff. So what can you do to make it fun? Remember. Point 10, rediscover the fun. Can you take a cooking class? Can you learn how to really love food? Can you invite people over and everyone experiment together with new dishes that are made from real food?
Wondered where you were going
Make
with
it
that
fun. Find a way to make it fun. And if you don't do that, it will not be something you stick to.
You won't stick with
really?
it.
Okay, so that's pretty much our top 10 list.
Which leads us, Chris, to you now have our empowering question
All
for today.
right, here is empowering question. Ask yourself, what will it take to get motivated to absolutely transform your life? And how will you get off your butt and just do it now? So ask yourself, what is it going to take to absolutely get motivated in my life? And how will I get off my butt and just do it now?
Nice one, Chris. Well, it brings us to our Meta 5. It's a quick one. It's a number of years ago, I was touring through Louisiana and Texas doing hypnosis shows. And I love both of those states. Love the Cajun culture and the Creole culture in New Orleans. And I love in Texas, to me, Texas is everything that's great about America. America at its best. I met some wonderful Texans. You get the best breakfast of your life, a huge plate with grits and gravy and biscuits and all the stuff we're not supposed to eat. That was in the 80s. But I was working in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. And I believe it was in San Antonio. I did a university gig, hypnosis show, and they were talking to me beforehand, and there were two guys in the audience who had come into the room, and the organizer said, those two guys hate each other's guts. And I went, what? Yeah, there was a black guy who was a basketball player, super fit, really interesting. And the other guy was a white redneck, blonde, Germanic, and he was just, they couldn't stand each other. And it was purely a racial thing. It was very, very odd. And bizarrely, I remembered this. They volunteered for my show and both wound up on stage, opposite ends of the row of chairs. And they were both phenomenal hypnotic subjects. And what I did was an experiment I'd never done before. I told the black guy he was white, and I told the white guy he was black. And they got up and debated, the black guy saying why it was better being white, and the white guy saying why it was so much better being black. And they debated with each other and were able to do it just as forcefully as their original position. And I snapped them out of it, and they just looked stunned. And there was silence. And then the audience just started to applaud because the implication was our beliefs can be changed that much, that quickly. What the hell are these stupid racist ideas we're hanging on to? And I think it was a wonderful moment.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to Brain Software episode 134. I hope you enjoyed the wellness tips. This is Chris Thompson, and I'm here with Mike Mandel. And we encourage you to go on over to our website. As we said at the beginning, MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events for some of the upcoming stuff. We've got a packed October and November. And if you're interested in more on the Wellness Academy, go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/wellness. You'll find a few interesting videos that we've put on that page. And again, nothing that you have to buy. You can just watch the videos.
Turn your life around. We did.
And turn your life around. If you happen to be interested in joining us in the Wellness Academy, that would be cool too. See you again on the next episode.
Thanks again.
And good night!
Oh, you Willy Willy Chopper, Willy Willy Chopper, we love you. Oh, you Willy Willy Chopper, Willy Willy Chopper, we love you. Oh, you Willy Willy Chopper, Willy Willy Chopper, you. Chop, chop, Willy Willy Chopper, travel north and south. Oh, you Willy Willy Chopper, dum 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 mouth. Chop, chop, Willy Willy Chopper, dum da 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 mouth. Chop, chop, Willy.